Even if you think you're done with a domain that you're no longer using, you might want to hang on to it.
So Matt, you have an article about hacking law firms by taking over abandoned domain names?
Yeah, and to be fair, the article focuses on how you might do this and what the things you would find that would be specific to a law firm if you were to compromise one. But it really applies to anybody who's ever registered a domain name and used it for business purposes. A researcher, Gabor Zathmari, wrote this very long and detailed blog post with a whole bunch of screenshots of what he was able to achieve.
Which is a lot.
Which is a lot. So this particular researcher had found that you could get a list of the different domains in the .au top-level domain, which is Australia, and he was interested in seeing if he could receive the emails for legal firms who had let their domains expire. If he found one, he registered it, and he set up the MX record, which is how email servers figure out where do I send mail for this domain. And he set it up sort of a general catch-all bucket for any email for the domain goes to a single email address. And he waited. And what happens is if any of those email addresses are still receiving email from, say, a business partner or notifications for a personal account, or there are any number of things that might be still sent there, right, even though that domain name has expired, right, the people who have you on the list don't know that. So they'll still continue to send stuff. And the sort of the scenario he posited was, what if your smaller law firm gets bought by another law firm, or they merge, and you decide to go with one brand name and you let the other ones expire? You may still have business contacts using the old domain and therefore sending email to the old email addresses.
So essentially what you're doing is you're able to see information that you otherwise shouldn't see.
So the whole point of this article is that a domain name that is associated with business email really needs to be protected and kept much longer than that actual domain is in use. So like if you decide to go ahead and go off to another name, you probably want to keep that domain registered, the old one, right, because if anyone can receive email at that, if they take it over and receive email there, they have the keys to a number of other different systems. And that could be, if you've got like a professional service that you've signed up for and that username is associated with that hijacked domain, whatever password reset functions exist, you can use that to get into the system. And they showed it with several different Australian law websites, yeah, that usually only lawyers should have access to, right, for professional reasons. Right. You can just sort of, take them over using the password reset. And that goes for things like Facebook or LinkedIn. Yeah. Just the sheer number of things that email is used as an identifier for demonstrates how dangerous this can be.
Right, and those sites don't necessarily have like two-factor authentication turned on, so there's no text message going to somebody's phone. It's really just, if you have control of the email, we're going to assume you're who you say you are, mm-hmm, which isn't always the case,
right,
as we just saw.
The blog post itself has a lot of detail, a lot of screenshots showing what he was able to do. It's definitely sort of sobering if you're someone who manages domains for a company to see what's possible if someone else gets a hold of one. So the ways that they suggest that you handle this is really like the easiest way to deal with it, the one that costs the most money probably, is to continue to hold on to those domain names in perpetuity. Yeah. For as long as you can to prevent this from ever happening. Now you can go ahead and sort of remove those business emails before you close out the domain and say, okay, whatever lists you're on, cancel it. Whatever Facebook or accounts are associated, either cancel or repoint them to a new domain. Do all that due diligence to make sure that once you're done, all the official accounts are taken to that new domain. But again, you might still receive professional email at the old domain because someone may have an old business card, may not be aware that you've changed names. There's all sorts of reasons that email might still end up there, of course, which is why hanging on to the domains is probably the best method of dealing with this.
Right.
What do you think, Mike?
Well, it's interesting because these types of domains also have a strong value for people that are conducting social engineering campaigns. Because if you were to Google search for any of these domains, there's all kinds of historical content out there. So anyone who is associated with that domain, who published an article, or if that domain was cited someplace in an article or a write-up or a professional profile, it gives the air of legitimacy to any kind of phishing or other social engineering type campaign that I'm going to use based out of that domain. So these things certainly have a lot of value in that respect as well.
So from an individual's perspective, I think it would be important to remove your old law firm's email or your old company's email from, say, like a LinkedIn page or anything that's on the internet that an attacker could then use to either initiate that reset password or use it for other purposes like social engineering or anything like that.